What is up, everyone? Welcome back to No Cap Space. Tyler DeLuca here as we continue our conference previews going into the 2025-2026 NCAA women's basketball season. Today, it is the Big Ten. If you have missed any of our previous previews, we've had them here on YouTube. We've had the Big East, the Big 12, mid-majors, and the ACC. You can also find them in print versions on NoCapSpaceWBB.com, which is what we're going to be using here today. Andrew has written his whole Big Ten preview. I want to look at the highlights from it. I'm going to let you go and dive into it all on NoCapSpaceWB.com, but there's a lot of teams here that I want to talk about and players that I'm very interested in seeing in the Big Ten. So let's dive into Andrew's article here, the Ball Knowers NCAA season preview, the Big Ten. You can find this whole article in the description below. Let's get into it. I want to start off with these teams, because I think there's interesting things to look at here with a lot of these. First off, Iowa. Let's talk about Iowa. Big Jan. Look, if you have been around here at No Cap Space, you know I am a Big Jan fan. She just fits. Like, it just works. I'm a believer. I really am. And to me, this is a season, again, obviously last year was such a big year, leaving the Caitlin Clark era. But Lucy Olsen was that perfect kind of stopgap guard, as Andrew mentions here, before obviously going and playing in the WNBA. So now you lose that guard, and you are pivoting more towards where you have been trying to rebuild. You have a couple freshmen coming in. You have players like Chit Chat Wright, which is a fantastic name. But as Andrew mentions here, the big thing that I'm looking to see is Hannah Stuelke. She's a player that we've had here on No Cap Space for interviews before, as we had with Jan Jensen. And to me, she is a player that I'm such a big fan of. And I feel like we have continuously seen her in a secondary supportive starring role, if that makes sense. Like, yes, she is absolutely so vital to what Iowa has done, even dating back with Caitlin, right? And running the four verts and everything. This is officially her team. Lucy Olsen came in and it kind of became the stopgap, and it was kind of both of them. This is Hannah Stuelke's team through and through. And I'm so excited to see how that can level up. And I want to see that growth as we continue to kind of project into what Hannah Stuelke could be in the WNBA. This season, I think, is going to be major in showing the versatility. We know how she can play off a guard that is dominant in their own way. How does that work when Hannah Stuelke is kind of your number one option here? And I think that she's capable of doing it and doing it in a successful manner. It's going to take more versatility, I feel like, but I don't think that is I don't want to say not a tough ask, but not an impossible ask by any means for Hannah Stuelke. I feel like it's there to be tapped into. I'm very interested in what the growth has looked like this summer, was at USA camp, things of that nature. I'm intrigued, and I'm very excited to see what Iowa State looks like. And to me, again, they were good last year. And obviously you lose Lucy Olsen, and that is not a small loss by any means. But I just feel like there's a relatively high floor for Jan Jensen and Iowa. And I'm very excited for what that looks like. I don't know what the ceiling is and how much of a difference there is between the floor and the ceiling, but in terms of how good they can be, it's going to rely on Hannah Stuelke leveling up. And I think that she's absolutely capable of doing that. And I'm very excited to see it. Moving on, Ohio State. Goodness. Ohio State has a lot going on right now. Goodness. No Cody McMahon. Kevin McGuff has his off the court stuff from this summer. Look, Jelani Cambridge is an absolute must-see player. She is so exciting, and she is going to win Ohio State basketball games this season. How many? I don't know. Like, there's a lot of question marks surrounding this Ohio State team in a way that I wouldn't say there has been. Like, there's been a relative consistency to like what you can expect from Ohio State, and the pieces that have like helped make that happen aren't really here right now. And I'm a bit worried about how that's going to look for Ohio State now. I don't think they're going to be bad, but in terms of like competing for the Big Ten, I don't know if they have enough. I mean, obviously UCLA, and we're going to talk about UCLA, I promise you. Obviously UCLA is going to be the favorite here, and rightfully so, but Ohio State, it just doesn't have the I just don't have the trust that I've had in years past to like know at least where the floor is going to be with Ohio State. The ceiling has always kind of been the question because it fluctuated so much in terms of kind of a night-to-night basis in a lot of ways. But they have lost pieces. They have lost time in the offseason with the suspension with Kevin McGuff. I'm just not very confident. I'm not. And I could be wrong. Again, the guard play is fantastic, right? I mean, Chance Gray and Jelani Cambridge, like, yes, please. I will be there. I'll be tuned in. But in terms of having the pieces surrounding those two to be in that upper echelon of teams like we've seen Ohio State be in the past, I don't know. That is what we're going to have to wait and see. And I'm confident in the guard play, but just about anything else out of that, I don't feel like there's proven things surrounding that. Can that be proven over the course of the season? 100%. But in preseason projection, I'm not feeling very great about it. USC, obviously, no JuJu Watkins, right? That is the big story across really all of the NCAA this season is that JuJu Watkins won't be playing. But I need people to hear me, okay? Jazzy Davidson and Kennedy Smith are going to win USC basketball games. I mean, we have had Jazzy Davidson on the show back when she was in high school and overtime. So like, this is why you gotta be tapped in. We got you. We got you locked in. We interviewed her. I loved our chat then, and I have been following her game. And I'm a believer. Like, she is a day one contributor in the realest way. Is it going to look different as when JuJu came in? Absolutely. I don't know exactly how it's going to look, mainly because they don't really have much size on this team, and that is going to be very problematic. Like 100% very problematic. But I trust Jazzy Davidson to be a day one contributor to this team. I also am a very large believer in the progression of Kennedy Smith as an offensive player. I am a propagandist for Kennedy Smith. The defense is obviously already there. We've seen offensive flashes. I think that this is going to be a year where obviously she's going to be relied on a whole lot more with JuJu Watkins out on that side of the ball. I am so excited to see what Kennedy Smith is able to do this year. And I just think the guard play, the wing play is going to be really, really strong with Jazzy and Kennedy. And you also bring Dunn in from Georgia Tech as well, just as another guard in that. It's incredibly guard heavy. It's not a large team in terms of size by any means. And we know how important that can be in NCAA basketball. And I think ultimately that is going to be USC's downfall. But, buddy, I think on the way there, we're going to see some masterclass performances from Kennedy and Jazzy, and I will be there no matter what. I'm stoked for it. But the obvious favorite in this conference, UCLA. Look, UCLA was really good last year. I was there in person whenever they just absolutely routed South Carolina in LA. And that continued over the course of a lot of the season. And to be frank, it continued until they ran into UConn in the Final Four and got absolutely demolished. I was there for that too. And so what do you have to do? One, you took your bumps and you learned. You kept a lot of the roster intact. Also lost some younger key pieces, but generally speaking, a lot intact. And then you go and add Gianna Neepkins, who literally, if I could pinpoint a player in the NCAA today and be like, I want this player to play next to Lauren Betts, she is one of the top candidates that I would pick for that. I mean, what a phenomenal fit that you go and get out of the transfer portal from Utah. Legger Walker as well, also coming in, like, and just back from injury. Like, this team is so stacked. There's so much talent. I mean, goodness gracious. Like, Lauren Betts is going to be one of the best players in the NCAA, but then you also have a ridiculous amount of talent. And so I say all that to say this: they absolutely should win the Big Ten. They absolutely should win the Big Ten conference tournament. Like, there's like the bar is very, very high for UCLA this year. And frankly, in a lot of ways, while they have been able to recruit very well, Sienna Betts, one of those players, Sienna Betts is going to be so good for them. Obviously injured right now, but it will be back and it's going to be very, very good. To me, to a degree, it's championship or bust. Like this, like without Lauren Betts, what does that build look like? Is maybe Sienna just walks right into that, and is able to fill that gap after Lauren graduates. But this is such an important year for UCLA as a program to prove that they belong at the top, and that this isn't just a little like couple year era that we're seeing here. And I believe that they can go and do it. There's a couple teams, especially on the East Coast, they're gonna have something to say about that. But I believe that they have every piece that they need to go and do it. Will they be able to? That's what we watch the season for. That's what we watch the games for. They're gonna get a test at the beginning. UCLA, Oklahoma. I'll be live after it, I'm sure, one way or another. But obviously, those are the tippy top teams here in the Big Ten that were, at least from last season and historically speaking, what to expect here. And it's a lot of teams in this conference that have just lost players for various reasons, whether it be graduation, whether it be injury, whatever it might be. So the Big Ten, while I think UCLA is going to be secure at the top, the order that we get after that is going to be very, very open to me. Here's some teams to watch, and there's a couple teams here that I wanted to highlight. Illinois, it's been setting a standard, as Andrew notes here, and just continues to get better. Lost some of the older pieces. That worries me. But there has been a build here that I think could be trusted. I'm not saying they're going to go and finish top 3, but it can be trusted. Indiana is also just absolutely entering a brand new era in a lot of ways. This, like the Mackenzie Holmes time, it has come and gone, and that whole era is just kind of coming and going. This feels like a bit of a rebuild year to me for Indiana, but we'll see. They've continued to just kind of be around and be solid, but this is just a whole lot of new faces. How will they be able to handle that? I'll be intrigued to see. These are some of the teams I want to talk about right here in the M's. Maryland. I am intrigued by Maryland. If you told me that Maryland ended up making a push for the top of the Big Ten, I wouldn't be surprised. You return a lot. You cooked in the portal. Getting a Lucia Conwa from Duke is, if you told me it ended up being one of the most impactful transfers in the entire country, would not be shocked in the slightest. I mean, that's what I'm hoping to see, frankly. Just absolutely fits what Brenda Freese does at Maryland. I think it's a perfect fit. You have your leading scorer coming back. You have your leading rebounder coming back. You go and get Garzon as well from Indiana, as I mentioned, kind of that exodus of that era of Indiana basketball. I am so intrigued by Maryland, and I don't know exactly where my expectations lie, but they're high. They're high. Obviously, UCLA, I still think is the favorite, should win the Big Ten. But goodness, if you told me Maryland was right up there competing with them, I would not be shocked at all. Michigan, I mean, just the absolute core of young talent that they had last year, immediately announcing themselves at the beginning of the season. Didn't feel like they had kind of like the full stamina to make it all the way through, and especially through Big Ten play. Just had a couple of close losses as well. But you go and you add stuff well in the transfer portal, including some height, as Andrew notes here. But Silas Swords, Olivia Olson, Mia Holloway, I mean, what a phenomenal core of young players that should only be getting better this year. I am so excited to watch Michigan play basketball. Silas Swords is absolute cinema to watch. Cinema. Also picked up one of the UCLA transfers, one of the young pieces I mentioned leaving, in Kendall Dudley. Another high recruit that I didn't really see much from at UCLA, just minutes-wise. Potentially another piece, just to continue adding to this young core and continuing to grow. I loved what I saw from Michigan last year, and I'm excited to see more from them this year. Michigan State as well is another one of those teams that, again, Grace Van Sluten is a player that just is a pretty consistent contributor, just in general. And I like what they were able to go and get in Jaylen Brown coming from Arizona State. One of a top scorer in the Big 12, like just going and adding more firepower to this Michigan State team. The fight was always, I feel like they were always just like in scrappy games, just weren't able to always get over the hump. Jaylen Brown to me is a player that can go and help you get over the hump. Like that is the type of stuff that you can go and help fill those margins in a little bit. And Michigan State is a team that just needed a couple margin fillers, and Jaylen Brown can absolutely be that. I wanted to go, and again, I don't want to make this video too long. So you can go and check out, again, the whole article is in the link down below in the description. But I want to talk about some of the players. Again, some of these I had talked about already. Lauren Betts, I wanted to talk about her though. we have seen in the offseason on social media some of the clips, even some from Corey Close directly, showing the versatility that Lauren Betts has been able to kind of add and show in the offseason. Some of it's been footwork down low and just a lot of Lauren Betts, like, understandably, she can kind of just get up over people and score. And, like, I get it. But, like, you want to see a deeper bag, and she's been working on it. And I think she's fully capable of having that deeper bag. And that's part of why I've been wanting to see it. And social media videos in the offseason, they can look, they can be deceiving. But she's hitting from mid-range. The footwork looks good in the paint. I'm ready to see a layered Lauren Betts this year. She was already so dominant and so good on both sides of the ball. I'm ready to see a layered Lauren Betts offensively this year, and I think we're going to get it, and I'm going to be ecstatic to see it. But nobody's going to be more excited than those teams in the WNBA lottery if we ever have another WNBA season. Lord knows. But a team is going to get Lauren Betts, and I think they might be getting an evolved Lauren Betts than we had seen in years past. Obviously very good, obviously very dominant in years past, but just showing the layers to her game, which maybe have been there, just haven't been exercised out in real games on the court. Maybe they've been developed more this summer. I don't know. I don't care. I want to see it. I'm very excited for it. I mentioned Hannah Stolke. I mentioned Jazzy Davidson. Silas Swords, again, just as Andrew mentions here, one of the new faces and one of the future faces for the long term of Canadian women's basketball. Just like those first couple games we're like, whoa, there's no back down at all from Sila. And she's a bucket. Like it's perfect. Like this is exactly what you want. Like you have the best players to me are superstar talents with dog mentality. And to me, Sila is that in a lot of ways. And so I am very excited to see what year 2 looks like with her. And I want to see some of these players here. One player that we didn't mention is Keoma McMiller, who, if you are, like an in-depth women's basketball fan, even if you didn't, it was pretty widespread. I don't know what in the world was going on last season with Keoma McMiller. I do not know. With the transfer saga and the minutes, and there was a whole lot going on, but regardless, she's found a place at Penn State. And she's a bucket. Like, she's so good. She's so tough. There seems to be just like a whole lot surrounding her. And I hope, both for her sake and for ours as fans, as viewers, as consumers of women's basketball, that this is the place for Keoma McMiller. Because if Keoma McMiller can go and just have the freedom to not have whatever outside stuff is going on and can just hoop, you're going to be seeing one of the best shows in women's basketball at Penn State. And I am ecstatic to hopefully see her have that opportunity. We talked a lot about Alicia Okanwa, Jelani Cambridge, Grace Van Sluten, Avery Howell, one of the USC transfers here. Look, as Andrew mentions, one of the smoothest shooters in the entire conference, and will kind of get to expand her game, not being next to JuJu Watkins, and just, again, being more as a floor spacer in that USC offense. Now, she's going to have players around her, certainly. Like, Washington is no slouch of a team by any means. No slouch. But I think this is going to be an opportunity for her to really kind of take the reins and grow into being a more dominant player over the course of offensive possessions and having the ball in her hands more and seeing what she can do with that. And I am very, very excited to see it. Look, we are winding down for the conference previews. Just the SEC left here within our conference preview series. We'll have that for you. And then Monday, it's game time. Our short-lived offseason is about to come to an end, and I couldn't be more excited, frankly. I'm ready for hoops. I'm ready for NCAA basketball. I know I'll have boots on the ground on Monday. We'll have boots on the ground over the course of this entire season, but we'll also be live here on YouTube doing post-game shows, all those things. Of course, the podcast and the print content on NoCatSpaceWBB.com. You can find everything in the link down below in the description, all of our socials, our website, all of that. Make sure you're tapped in with us here. We're going to bring you coverage the entire NCAA season on top of everything that's going on in the WNBA. And until next time, we have one conference preview left, and I'll talk to you soon.